Well, the word was no signs of life. That's what officials are saying after a mile-wide mudslide devastated Washington state this weekend. Dozens of homes have been destroyed, and many residents are still missing.
Search and rescue crews are still on the scene, working their way through quicksand-like conditions and searching for survivors. Charlene Aaron has more.
Rescue crews worked through the night, digging through mud at least 15 feet deep in some areas.
The conditions are very, very muddy. In places, it is still like quicksand. Other areas are they're just not accessible at this time.
Authorities believe the slide was caused by recent heavy rain. At least 30 homes were destroyed or damaged, buried when the side of the mountain came crashing down.
Total devastation. And it's just unbelievable. It reminds me of what a tornado looks like when it's touched the ground.
There really is no stick standing in the path of the slide.
The mud covers about 1 square mile. Some victims were able to get out on their own. Sean Wright quickly went from being a victim to a first responder when he heard people crying for help.
Screams. People sounded. At one point I heard a baby scream.
Wright and several other people were able to use chainsaws to get the mother and baby out of the remains of their home.
Where we got her was just debris. You couldn't tell anything was houses. It was just all debris.
Crews have not been able to search the entire area of debris, only the areas determined to be safe enough to move across. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Thanks, Charlene. A few years ago in the so-called Cold War, I did a speech to the Council on Foreign, whatever we call it, the group that was dealing with these issues. And it was clear to me that Russia was a paper tiger, that they didn't have an infrastructure. The industry was collapsing. Their roads were horrible. I mean, they were like, third world in much of the face. And now Vladimir Putin is sticking his chest out and trying to show what a big shot he is. But the truth is that the economy, as they said today in the Wall Street Journal, a Potemkin economy, he is in serious trouble. But now he's rattling his saber with the possibility of invading eastern Ukraine, and our people say there's nothing they can do about it. Well, I think there is, but maybe with a feckless president we can't. John Jessup has more of our top stories from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. Here's John.
Pat, there's growing concern of a military conflict in Ukraine. In Crimea this weekend, Russian troops took 2 Ukrainian military bases by force. They even held 80 Ukrainian Marines captive. Russia annexed Crimea last week, a move the U.S. and the European Union don't recognize. President Obama is in the Netherlands meeting with European leaders about the crisis. They've leveled sanctions against Russian officials and banks. But with 20,000 Russian troops amassed on the Ukrainian border, even that response appears to have little impact.
Here is Vladimir Putin with a failing Soviet franchise, and when he can't win the hearts and minds of his neighboring nations, he uses energy extortion, mass gunmen, and barbed wire. Now, he is a bully, and we've got to call him for what he is. But this notion that some sanction is going to stop a former colonel in the KGB from his ambitions of a Russian empire is naive.
We don't know what Putin has in his mind and what would be his decision. That's why the situation becoming even more explosive than it used to be a week ago.
Even a top White House official admits Russia could attack Ukraine. On CNN's State of the Union, Deputy National Security Advisor Tony Blinken said Russia might invade eastern Ukraine, and there's nothing the U.S. can do to stop it. What Vladimir Putin is doing in Ukraine is only one cause for concern. For years, he's also been rolling out a Soviet-style crackdown on freedoms in Russia, including religious freedom. And many ex-Soviet states have been following suit. Paul Strand reports.
Representatives from all over the former Soviet Union gathered on Capitol Hill to bemoan what's happening to religious liberty in that Eurasian region.
Sadly, the truth is, government continues to persecute and punish believers in much of the ex-Soviet Union.
The head of the Russian-American Institute talked to CBN News about the dire realities in Russia where it appears Vladimir Putin is set on cracking down after years when it looked like he was on the side of religious liberty.
We call it Putin 1 and Putin 2. When Putin first came to power, he was a positive influence. But after his second term, he began to roll back a lot of the religious freedom issues, human rights issues, assembly. It's been a very difficult direction that we're going in right now.
Dr. Mikhail Cherenkov was also pessimistic as he looked at the lack of liberty across the many former Soviet states.
We have new restrictions from government and also from society. I mean Islamic society and Orthodox, nominal Orthodox society. So this is new challenges for evangelical church and for civil society as well.
Dr. Birnbaum was quick to point out with the immensity of the former USSR, it's really hard to generalize. But he said what he's seeing across Eurasia is not very hopeful.
I mean, these leaders in these Asian republics are copying the Russian model, eliminating opposition, eliminating the free press, eliminating the right for opposition candidates to form political parties.
Lawmakers stopped by to wish these Eurasian religious leaders well, including one of Congress's lead fighters for religious freedoms internationally.
I just want you to know my heart is with you, and I don't think you could be doing a greater work. Religious freedom is the foundation of all human freedom.
Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
In the United Kingdom, new signs that the country is recognizing Islamic Sharia law. It comes after the acceptance of new guidelines for Sharia-compliant wills. That's according to The Telegraph, a British newspaper. The move could allow lawyers to legally draft Islamic wills, even if they discriminate against non-Muslims, women, and adopted children. Such wills could give a woman a smaller share of an inheritance than men, prevent unbelievers from receiving any inheritance, and exclude adopted children. Critics warn the guidelines are a step towards establishing a parallel Islamic legal system in the UK. CBN reporters in Jerusalem are among dozens of journalists in Israel who received threatening text messages over the weekend. The senders identified themselves as Al-Qassam, the military wing of Hamas. One message read, "Al-Qassam has chosen you to be the next Shalit. Be ready." Gilad Shalit, an Israeli soldier, was abducted and held in Gaza for 5 years. Another message read, "If Gaza is attacked, then the life of the Zionists will be hell." The Foreign Press Association said the recipients apparently had come from a carefully selected database set up by the military wing of Hamas. Well, in Jerusalem, thousands of runners from around the world gathered this weekend to race the Jerusalem Marathon. As Chris Mitchell reports, they're literally running through history.
Some 26,000 runners gathered for the 4th annual Jerusalem Marathon. 2,500 of them came from 55 nations to run the race.
We're going to see the beauty of the city, the most beautiful city in the world.
The marathon course runs throughout Jerusalem, but the highlight for many is the opportunity to run through Jerusalem's old city here at the Jaffa Gate.
For me, it's a dream come true as a marathon runner, somebody that understands how marathons lift cities, showcase the city of Jerusalem. So it's a wonderful day.
There are 3 main races, a 10-kilometer, a half marathon, and a full 42-kilometer, 26.2-mile marathon. There's also an 800-meter half-mile race to raise money for the needy. Jerusalem Mayor Nir Barkat came up with the idea for a marathon. He also runs in the race.
Having such a strong, wonderful, referenceable international marathon, we're actually becoming on the short list of marathons that all want to do at least once in their lifetime.
The course is challenging since Jerusalem is, as the Bible says, a city set on a hill.
This is my first and only marathon. The one place I'll do it is Jerusalem. It's supposed to be the hardest and it's supposed to be also the best fun.
These Americans came with a message.
I want to spread this message all over the world.
I am here to run on holy ground, 26.2 miles, 42 kilometers.
I wish I can run barefooted. Yes, I have to respect this land. It's a holy land and I love it dearly.
I am running barefoot. Why? Because I will be in good company with many other holy people that have traversed these streets and these hills barefoot.
Some have a cause.
And we are raising money for UCLH, Cancer Research, in London.
Others will take a new message back when they go home.
What we used to get is from the news. Israel or Jerusalem is quite a dangerous place, but after we visit, I think it's a very good and nice city. We will spread out the message to our friends that Israel or Jerusalem is a safe place to visit and a very nice view, nice city.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jaffa Gate, Jerusalem.
The film God's Not Dead made a strong debut this weekend, landing at number 5 at the box office. It earned just over $8.5 million, even though it aired on only 780 theaters nationwide. The other films in the top 5 appeared on more than 3,000 screens. God's Not Dead earned a per-theater average of nearly $11,000. That's the second highest in the top 5. And Pat, Christian films have been on a roll, doing extremely well lately.
Well, the producers are doing a terrific job, and I congratulate them. And we did an interview with the lead actor who played Hercules, by the way, in previous films. He's the lead in the God's Not Dead film. It looked like a really good movie. I haven't seen it yet, but I commend it for you.
A Chinese military plane spotted several floating objects in the Indian Ocean in the search for missing Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. The crew reported a white, square-shaped object in an area identified by satellite imagery as possible debris from the missing airliner. Australian officials also are analyzing radar images provided by France, which shows potential floating debris. Meanwhile, the search for the Boeing 777, missing since March 8th, has expanded to parts further south in the southern Indian Ocean. CBN is reaching children in Cambodia through Super Kids Club, a TV show produced by CBN. More than 2,000 children attended a recent Super Kids Club event in southeast Cambodia. Children were encouraged to be good students and good examples to their friends through songs, dance, and games. The children also listened to a Bible message and participated in prayer. And more than 1,000 children prayed to receive Jesus as their Savior. A local church will follow up with those who want to know more about Jesus. And you can find out more about what CBN is doing around the world by logging on to cbn.com/international.